Okay, I want you to take a quick second here and actually project your mind forward. Seriously, close your eyes for a moment if it helps, and imagine yourself exactly 1 year from today. What does your life look like? Where are you sitting? How are you feeling? The source material we're breaking down in today's explainer presents a really profound concept based on this exact 12-month window. It asks us to confront the simple reality that time is going to pass, whether we invite it to or not. And more importantly, it places the absolute responsibility for that future reality squarely on our own shoulders, starting today. So let's just dive right into this. A year from now, you are going to face one of two very stark realities. You'll either look back and absolutely thank yourself for putting in the work, just feeling incredibly grateful for that discipline. Or you're going to be consumed by regret, deeply wishing you had just started today. And the thing is, there really is no middle ground here. Time marches on regardless, and this material forces us to acknowledge that our future state is entirely 100% dependent on our present actions. And that brings us to the core thesis of this entire framework. That future state, whether you land in the thank yourself bucket or the regret bucket, it isn't some grand mystery just waiting to unfold out there in the universe. It is a definitive choice. And the kicker? That choice is happening in this exact present moment. As we analyze this, it becomes incredibly clear that we are actively authoring our future every single second. The decision isn't pending, it's being actively made by what you're choosing to do or even choosing to avoid right now. It's actually pretty fascinating how perfectly this captures our human tendency to constantly negotiate with time. I mean, we love to defer our goals, don't we? We tell ourselves we'll start tomorrow, or we'll finally get our act together next Monday, when we somehow magically feel more motivated. But the source text aggressively pushes back against this illusion. It demands we completely eliminate tomorrow and next Monday from our mindset. They are psychological traps. The only actionable point on the timeline, literally the only place where reality happens and actual progress is made, is today. Now, look, if focusing entirely on today feels a bit overwhelming, the source material offers a really powerful bridge of empathy. It reminds us that every single successful person once stood exactly where you are. And this is fundamentally crucial to grasp because it validates your current hesitation. Whatever massive mountain you're looking up at right now, whoever you look up to who has already climbed it, they started at the exact same base camp. They weren't magically teleported to the summit. They stood in the exact same starting position, facing the exact same unknown that you're facing right now. So, what does that starting position actually feel like? Well, the text breaks down these specific, heavy feelings. They were unsure, they were scared, they were totally full of doubts. It is completely normal to look at a new endeavor and feel a massive wave of imposter syndrome or just outright fear. What the source material is doing here is actively normalizing these emotions. Being unsure and full of doubts, those aren't red flags warning you to turn back. According to the text, they are actually normal, expected prerequisites to success. They're just the standard emotional baggage everyone carries at the starting line. Yet, here is the absolute game changer. Despite all of those negative feelings, despite the visceral fear and that creeping uncertainty, the singular difference between the people who succeeded and the people who stayed stuck at the starting line was one incredibly deliberate choice. They made the decision to start anyway. The text isolates the specific action. They didn't wait around for the fear to magically vanish. They didn't hold off until they felt 100% confident. They basically picked up their doubt, shoved it in their pocket, and stepped forward regardless. So the real crucial point here is understanding what you actually need versus what you only think you need. The text does a great job of clearing away the most common barriers we construct just to avoid taking action. Let's talk about what you absolutely do not need. First off, perfect conditions. Honestly, the stars are never, ever going to perfectly align. And you certainly don't need everyone's approval. Waiting for a unanimous green light from your friends, your family, and society is a guaranteed recipe for stagnation. These are false prerequisites. They're just highly sophisticated excuses we use to justify staying safely inside our comfort zones. When you strip away that desperate need for perfection and that paralyzing need for permission, the source text brings the focus all the way down to the absolute bare minimum requirement. You literally only need one thing: the courage to take the first step. That is it. The text isn't asking you for the courage to finish an entire marathon today or to map out step 100. It simply asks you to find just enough internal bravery to initiate movement. We all know the initial friction of getting started is always the hardest part, and the text emphasizes that a brief moment of courage is the only currency required to break through it. This leads us to a fascinating contrast presented in the material: dreams versus actions. Now, dreams are wonderful, right? They give us a compass, a sense of direction. But as the text bluntly points out, dreams fundamentally do not change lives. They are entirely passive. They happen completely inside the safety of your own head. Actions, on the other hand, exist in the messy, real world. Actions are the undeniable, life-changing force. You simply cannot think your way into a new reality. You absolutely have to act your way there. And this perfectly captures the mindset shift required to move from dreaming to acting. Think about it. Are you spending your daily energy passively collecting excuses? Gathering up all the perfectly logical arguments for why a project won't work, why you don't have enough time, or why the economy is bad. The text urges us to make an active, aggressive shift toward collecting victories instead. Instead of compiling this mental ledger of why you can't, you need to start compiling a physical track record of what you have actually done. Now, if the idea of collecting victories sounds totally exhausting or intimidating, the text immediately steps in to reassure us with a vital caveat. Even if they're small. The size of the victory doesn't matter at all in the beginning. What matters is the active accumulation of them. Taking a 5-minute walk, writing a single messy paragraph, drafting one difficult email. These are all completely legitimate victories. The source material emphasizes that momentum isn't built by giant, cinematic leaps that look amazing on social media. It is built by stacking tiny, unglamorous wins on top of each other day after day. So let's see how this all connects into the broader architecture of success outlined in our text. It's an incredibly simple progression. Step 1 is that single step we just talked about, that small victory. But step 2, that is the absolute secret ingredient, repeated every day. Consistency is what activates the magic. When you take a seemingly insignificant action and you repeat it relentlessly, the text tells us it naturally reaches step 3. It becomes a journey that changes everything. It's basically mathematical. The compounding effect of daily action transforms a tiny step into an entirely new life trajectory. Because of that incredible compounding power, the text issues its ultimate directive. So make today count. It brings our entire temporal journey from projecting a year ahead down to the mechanics of daily steps firmly back to the immediate present. We aren't worried about the massive journey right now. We are solely focused on maximizing the 24 hours directly in front of us. That's it. This is the only window of time over which you have any actual tangible control. Making today count is literally the only way to ensure that the compounding interest of your actions starts working in your favor. Which brings us beautifully full circle. Remember that version of you 1 year from now that we imagined at the very beginning of this explainer? The text reintroduces them here, but completely reframes them. Your future self isn't just some distant, abstract concept anymore. They are an active, expectant observer of the choices you're making today. Imagine them looking back at you right now, through the lens of time, just watching to see if you're going to put in the work required to give them the life they desperately want to be living. And that leaves us with this profound, lingering question, derived directly from the final line of our source material. Will you disappoint the person you are about to become? Think about it. When you look in the mirror a year from exactly today, are you going to be apologizing to yourself for wasting another 12 months? Or will you be celebrating the fact that you finally found the courage to take that very first step? This explainer ends here, but the timer on your choices never stops. So what are you going to choose to do right now?